Hi and welcome to Neutron One. I'm Jack.
And I'm Stuart, and welcome to this quick tutorial on downloading, installing, and getting up and running with Neural Amp Modeler and Convology XT, the two components that we use to deliver the profiles and the effects presets for our producer series packs. So I'm going to quickly just go through how you get hold of them. We're going to have links in the description for where you need to go to get this stuff. I'm going to show you it as well right now. So in your browser, if you follow the two separate links, one for Neural Amp Modeler, which will bring you to this page, neuralampmodeler.com. And you're going to want to click on the play button here, which has, if you scroll down, your download links for Windows or Mac OS. So we're going to choose Windows. You see here that it's downloaded. You get a little zip file with your Neural Amp Modeler installer and a PDF. That installer is what you're going to want. So let's install that. Now we have it. You can just choose all the default stuff here. You get a standalone application and a plugin. And there we go, that's now installed. Optionally, you can read the README. I'm not sure that it's got a lot of info in it at the moment, but I won't do that for the moment. And then we're going to do exactly the same thing for Convology. Again, if you follow the link, it'll bring you to this page. You click on Download Now. It's free, but you still have to buy it for nothing, if that makes sense. All you do, put your email in here. It says enter payment details, but you don't need to. Click You Agree. And when you submit your details, you will get a serial number, which you'll need to activate it, and a download link will appear on that page. Again, I'm going to do it now because otherwise I have to put all my details in. But when you've done that, you will download a file, and that file can then be installed. In exactly the same way, you can choose whichever thing is correct for your particular DAW software that you're using. I'm using Reaper, so I'm really only interested in VST3. There we go, and that's now installed. So once you've got them installed, you want to go into your DAW of choice. As I say, for me, that's Reaper, so I'm going to open that up, a nice blank project. And insert a track. And I'm going to choose an input that has a guitar. So before we begin, before we do anything else, I'm just going to talk a little bit about calibrating your input level. It's kind of important to do. For a lot of sound cards, it will just be on the minimum setting of the knob, plug into a high impedance instrument input and just leave the gain all the way down. Should be roughly calibrated, but not always. So just in case you want to check it, I'm just going to show you how you can do that quickly and easily using the built-in meters. We're going to just make it bigger though, so it's super easy for you to see. I'm going to go to my track layout here and just change my meter so it's huge. There we go, massive meter there, so you can see the incoming signal. And what we're looking for with our input level to be ideal for our profiles is anywhere between -12 and -6. You see here, there's -12, there's -6. If I start strumming reasonably hard, don't whack it too hard. It's not about finding ultimate peak levels. It's really just the sort of average. If you strum it like an acoustic, you know, not too hard, you can see we're peaking there right between 12 and 6, -12 and -6, which is absolutely spot on. The card we're using for the test today is an Audient ID4, just an old USB sound card. And that has its input to gain for the high impedance input set to minimum. And that will probably be the case for most humbucker bass guitars. You're going to see perfectly in the right zone there with everything just left at the default on minimum on the knobs. But later we're going to go through, and in fact, why don't we just do it now? Should pass me, I'm going to change guitars quickly for something with a little bit less juice. Nice vintage spec Strat, classic vibe Strat.
And you all now understand my purpose in the video.
Yeah, the guitar passer. So what you'll notice here is if you look at the input now, it's much quieter. And this is normal because, you know, Strat's single coil pickups really got a much lower output than a humbucker. So perhaps, Jack, you can turn that knob nearest you, the small one, yeah? Turn that up until we're in that same place, between -12 and -6. Don't want to go above -6, but anything in the middle there is absolutely perfect. There we go, you see that? Well, that's what you're looking for, in that sort of range. You don't have to do it in Reaper. Your sound card itself probably has a utility with a, you know, a meter on it or whatever DAW you're using. Just open your mixer, and the mixer view will have also have a, do that, mixer. Let's get this full screen. You can see it up here as well, you see? So there's -6. It's a bit smaller, that's all. That's why I was doing a blown up view for you. But you're looking to be just under -6. Not above, ideally. If it's just briefly goes above it, it's not a problem. But what that means, in practical terms, is that when you're playing normally, it's very unlikely that you're going to go into clipping, and it's kind of an optimal safe zone to have that extra 6 dB of headroom to make sure it's not going to distort on the input, which would then change the sound of your guitar going in. But you've got plenty of gain, so you're going to get all the juice out of the profile and the plugin, and it's going to sound the way we intended it when we made the sound.
So the relevance of the guitar, obviously, we've got the early access Van Halen group. So if you're going to have the Frankenstrat type setup, perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just about the level going in.
Yeah.
The sound of the guitar, they're all different, and that's fine, actually. That's not a problem. I mean,
Yeah.
all guitars, they have their own particular sound, and they'll react differently with the presets based on the way that they sound, and that's kind of part of the whole fun of it all. But the input level does kind of matter, because you're going to end up with, like, you know, much less gain for a start, which is just going to sound wrong. Or if you do, for some reason, have it way too loud, then you might be distorting the sound of your guitar before it reaches the plugin, which then is going to change the characteristics of the drive coming from the profile, and that ain't going to sound right. So really, this is just a kind of thing that you should do, really, you have to do once. And then once your level is set, as long as you're using that same guitar, you're going to be good to go with all of the profiles that we make. And it's kind of a good range to be in just generally. It's a safe zone, high output from the guitar, which means you're going to get the most juice out of the plugin. And you can always fine tune it on the plugin itself. There is a gain control on Neural Amp Modeler, and it's not like it would be on an amp. It's not, it doesn't change the sound. It's literally just a volume control for the signal going in. So it's perfectly safe to turn it down and up, as long as you don't go wacky with it and go like plus like 20 dB or something like that. I think it only goes up to +10 anyway. I'm not sure. Maybe it does go to 20. But anything up to about +10, you're not going to find it changes the sound at all, as long as you're keeping it so that you're not going beyond this range. So if your sound card doesn't have the ability to get you all the way up to where you want to be, you can add a bit more on in the plugin to get you the rest of the way there. Anyway, right, let's change back to the other guitar.
Back in the game.
Yeah. Back to the old faithful. And we'll get the plugins loaded up and show you how simple it is to get one of the all-in-one sounds just rocking out of the box. So let's turn this huge meter off. Let's see. Track layout defaults. There we go. Right. So this is going to be the same for most DAWs, but certainly in Reaper, you just want to click on the insert effects, track effects plugin. Insert, it would be in Cubase. Similar kind of idea, where you add your effects to the channel. And all you're going to do for these two is run them in series. So that means it goes from one into the other. So we'll start with Neural Amp Modeler. It should show up in your developers list if you have them sorted by the developer as Stephen Atkinson, who's the fabulous author. And you'll get an interface like this, which is pretty simple. For using all-in-one profiles, assuming you've got your input gain calibrated properly, you don't need to change anything at all. it should just be a case of loading up your profile. And here we have a little test profile that we've created specifically for this video. Have a little bit of noise reduction to stop the buzz. All on default because can you just turn that input gain back down to 0 again? Because we've changed back to the other guitar. All the way left, all the way. Yeah, that's perfect. And then you just load the all-in-one profile here into this slot. You've got two ways of doing it. If there's nothing loaded, you click where it's a select model. It will open up a sort of a folder search where you can browse to a location for one of the NAM profiles and open it up, and then it goes into the slot. Or you can use this little folder here, which does exactly the same thing. Yeah. When you've got one loaded, though, if you have multiple NAM profiles in the same folder, clicking on it will actually show you a list of all the things that are in the same folder, which is a nice way to quickly swap between profiles that are just sat there in the same folder location. If you want to unload it for whatever reason, the little X will do that, and it goes back to the select model, and you can do it again from there. But you can always use this little folder if you want to do that at any time. Go to a different folder. These little buttons here, left and right, just go up and down in the folder. There's only one profile in this folder, so that doesn't do anything at the moment, but there we go. So your basic controls here, on and off for your noise gate. Usually it's a good idea to have it on. You don't want it too high, though. If you're really not a fan of noise gates, then anything below like -90, I would say is fairly safe in terms of getting rid of noise without cutting off the ends of your notes. I tend to run it around -80, but I've got quite heavy hands, so I'm always making enough noise to keep the gate open when I'm playing. The EQ control just turns the EQ off, completely turns it off. Doesn't matter what the settings are. If you do that, then it turns it completely off. It just takes it completely out. This EQ is really useful, though, for fine-tuning your sound. It's not really like an amp EQ. It's more like a mixing console EQ, but very simple. Just bass, middle, and treble, or maybe like what you would find, I don't know, on a hi-fi or something. But it's great just for fine-tuning the amount of low, middle, or high frequencies in the sound, just to tweak it a little bit to get it more like what you want without fundamentally changing the character of it. It doesn't behave like the original amp would, though. It's not connected to the profile. This EQ is the same all the time, and it does its thing sort of after the fact, after the sound. But it is very useful nonetheless. Use it all the time. And then your normalize button, which you just want to leave on most of the time. The reason being, when the profiles are created, the profiling engine sort of works out the overall volume level of that sound, and then it applies an offset, which it puts into the file for it to then be turned back up if it's very quiet or down if it's too loud, so that they all end up roughly kind of the same volume. So just leaving this on for most of the profiles you'll ever encounter should just ensure that, you know, you're not going to load one and it's suddenly going to be really loud or really quiet. It's not always perfect, but it's pretty good, and I would recommend you just leave it on. So the two gain controls are literally just volume controls. So this will change the amount going in, up and down. Again, if you've calibrated your level properly, assuming that you've loaded a profile that has the amount of gain that you wanted in the first place, most of the time you're going to leave this at 0, but you can tweak it. So, like, you know, maybe you just want to add a little bit more. This is perfectly safe to do. It doesn't change the sound at all. It just feeds more of your signal into the plugin, which will just usually increase the amount of overdrive you're getting out of the amp if it's overdriven, or the volume going in if it's completely clean. And the output level is exactly that. Again, it's just an output level trim. Lets you turn up the signal coming out of the plugin. Be mindful of that, obviously, especially with loud distorted guitar sounds. You can easily start to clip your output, go above 0 and start making all kinds of horrible fuzzy noises. Basically, you should be leaving this at 0 and letting normalize do its magic. Unless for some reason, like maybe if you, let's say you take the gain right down to try and reduce the distortion that the sound has, you may go below the point where it's overdriving and where it starts to literally just turn it down. So in that case, you could then, you know, compensate for what you've taken away on the input level with an output level to keep it all the same volume, that kind of stuff. With clean amps, certainly I would say as this goes down, this should go up by roughly the same amount, unless it's close to the point where it's starting to be on the edge of break up, in which case you probably want to add about half of what you take away to keep it all the same. But the goal is that you should be trying to keep the overall level of the output looking fairly normal. So, and by normal, I mean somewhere around, the top third. So here we've got a Marshall Plexi profile. Nothing particularly exciting other than it's got some rather bespoke and interesting input filtering that we're designed to kind of optimize the sound of the Plexi for modern pickups. So this, if you look at the input level, knowing that it's been checked and calibrated at the -12 to -6 range, and the output level of this normalized profile. That's what you should be looking for. Somewhere up here for the input and the output, not super critical, but just be aware if it's down here somewhere, then clearly something's up. And, not all of the profiles that you're going to use have been made professionally. So you may find some of them are a little bit hokey in some way or other. So just be mindful that you should be seeing your output level and your input level somewhere around this sort of hovering above the letters or around the letters here of this row of controls. And then it should all be cool. So now we're going to add to this
the gold,
the effects. So this is Impulse Record is the name of the company. It's going to show up as Convology XT in your list. And you're running these in series, which means the signal runs into Neural Out Modeler. It goes out of Neural Out Modeler into Convology XT, and then out of there onto your master bus. And let's load a nice one of the free presets that's included. Nice Lexicon 480L, and we'll take that mix level down a little. So we're going to have like a very nice but fairly kind of default plate reverb running now on top of our There we go. Cool. Nice reverb. And this is one of the included presets. Convology comes with all of this stuff in the factory library completely for free. It's nothing to do with Neutron. We just use it because it's cool and it's free. And I think that they're doing it right, to be honest. It's a great platform for us to use to put all of our sounds into as well. And when you buy our Producer Series packs, you get profiles to load into Neural Amp Modeler. And you also get effects presets, which are kind of like an all-in-one for effects, containing delays and reverbs, and there's a modulation here as well that we're able to tune to sound like almost everything we want.
And you'll need to go to, if you're loading up the Van Halen Producer Series, this one you'll need to go into the PDF, and that's going to show you how from the effects you can match those up and make sure that they're loaded properly.
Yeah, and it's exactly the same principle though as the all-in-ones on Neural Amp Modeler. The preset is pre-configured, you don't need to change anything.
Yeah.
If you load the NAM profile up with everything on 0, everything on default, then it should sound perfect. If you load up the effects preset and just literally as it is, import the preset from the zip bundle when you get it, then you shouldn't need to change anything. It should be exactly how it should need to be in order to sound exactly like we shipped it. So there's nothing really to change here in terms of getting the default sound that comes with the pack. Obviously, there's nothing to stop you from playing around with it and changing it yourself if you want to, but that's not a requirement. You don't need to change anything at all. There's nothing really to understand in terms of, how to set anything. It's like, it's all just leave it on the defaults. The only thing that I would say with Convology is that the default settings in the preferences menu here, you do want to turn this 0 latency on, and I would recommend running it at 64. If you read that, it tells you why. But zero latency changes the way the plugin behaves so that it doesn't create any inherent delay for the signal going through it. If you have a latency added, then what can happen sometimes is you'll play and there'll be a delay, a gap in time between you playing and you hearing what you played. So although that also is to do with your sound card and the way that's set up, I don't know what we're running here. Let's have a look. 64 samples, so we're running at around 5 milliseconds of overall system latency, which is very nice. If you don't turn this on, then Convology can add a bit of latency that you definitely don't want. So do what it recommends. Put it on a block size of 64, turn 0 latency on, and everything should be absolutely perfect. It should be as it should be. And then install our presets. There's a separate video on how to install the presets. We'll link that in the description below. You don't need to worry about that in this one. This is really just a quick setup guide. But when you're ready to install them, just follow that. It shows you how to get them in there and import the entire bundle in one go so that you can have all the sounds, the effect sounds that go with the profiles to sound like the album. So that's really it for this one. I think we've covered pretty much everything you need to know in order to be up and running. By this point, you should have a profile working in Neural Amp Modeler with an effects preset running in Convology. May be worth you at this point, depending on what facilities you have in your DAW, saving this either as a project, or in the case of Reaper, you can actually select these two and you can save that effects chain off so that you can then import it later as a kind of pre-configured, or you can do it with the channel, or if not, you can just save the project, and then next time you want to start up, you'll be able to just load your project and immediately be ready to rock, you know, ready to go. So that should be it for me. Anything else you want to talk about now?
Yeah, I mean, just a couple of important scientific points that we need to discuss. So when you switch on the first stage, you're going to have a massive smile on your face and it will hurt a little bit.
Highly scientific.
When you get onto Convology and then you switch on and you have the final effects, you will have a smile that you can't remove, maybe for hours. So I just wanted to warn everyone of that.
So there's the official smile warning.
Yeah. Be careful, guys. Be careful and let others know around you before you go in, because it won't come off your face for hours. End of the science lesson.
Cool. All right, there you go. We'll have fun. Leave any comments or questions you want down the bottom there. As I say, we'll put all the links for everything for you to get this stuff. And when you're ready to go and install the preset files for the effects, there's a video for that. We'll put a link for that as well. And of course, as always, we recommend you watch the deep dive for whatever pack it is that you're working with. There's a full set of information in there. We go through stuff about the sounds themselves, how they were made, some of the history, maybe some stuff around the guitar as well, how you set the guitar to get the sound to work well for that particular sound, all that kind of stuff. It's all the information in one place. They are quite long, but we like to think they're quite interesting as well. Hopefully you agree, but I highly recommend that you, if you buy any of the packs, that you watch the deep dives that go with them. It's kind of a value add to have all that information as well. So that's really it for me. And until next time.
That's it for me as well. Goodbye for now.
Bye.